G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now if you love me like I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good legal advice. Now our first post is by user Parental Car Theft, titled California. Parents took and sold my car and won't tell me who to. What's the best step to take from now? First, some backgrounds. I no longer get along with either of my parents. I won't go into more as it's not reconcilable because of serious abuse. I bought a car when I was 16 and still living with them, and they believe that makes it theirs. Title and everything was originally in my mother's name, but was transferred into my name for 3 years now. It is mine and only my car. When the family split, my parents tried to call what they called debts of a minor, which they tried to convince me was a legal term, saying if I took my support away from them, then they had the right to recall all money involved in raising me. I went away for 2 weeks in September and left my car with my brother, who I still get on well with. He is still in contact with my parents. They visited him a couple of times while I was away, and on the last visit, they stole the keys to the car from him and drove off with it. My brother told me immediately, and I said I would deal with it when I got back. It happened a few days before I was about to get back. So I went to my parents to get my car, and they said they sold it, and the $8,000 they sold it for was to go towards debts of a minor, and they informed me I now only have about $180,000 to go before I've paid them off. I called the police immediately to report it stolen, and they seemed to prefer to listen to my parents, who said the title was in their name. I have title in my name, however. Advice from the police was to work it out between ourselves. Useless. So, where I'm stuck now is I have no car, I have no keys to it, it's out there somewhere, and my parents refuse to tell me where it is. It is my car and I can prove it. Who do I prove it to in order to have it retrieved? Are the police right in that I have to beg the people who took my car, my parents, to give it back? Is this a job for a lawyer or a court or escalating it with police? I've never had to deal with the legal system before. Debts of a minor. You realize you have no obligation if you're older than 18 to financially pay them back, right? They can kick you out / cut off any monetary support they have for you, but you don't have to pay your parents back for raising you. Also, if they sold the car in your name and the title was in your name, go to the police station with that and refile that it's been stolen and bring the proof. Also, if you do not have the title and it's in your name, you can obtain a duplicate via this website, dmv.org/CA California, replacing a lost title. When I first left home, I realized very quickly that debts of a minor isn't a thing. I owe them nothing. Title is definitely in my name. I'll try again with the police with documentation at the station. You need to explain it as, here's the title to my car in my name. Someone stole my car and sold it. And in addition to the excellent advice of going to the police, contact your insurance and contact the California DMV. In the former case, they will make you whole while all of this gets sorted out. In the latter case, they will be on the lookout for your car if the new buyer tries to register it or order a new title. In my stressing about the police, I didn't even think of insurance and DMV. Thanks. I had the idea in my head that everything started and ended with police. Too many movies. If you have comprehensive coverage, your insurance company will have a financial interest in helping you get the car back, and will likely provide an attorney for at least a portion of the upcoming fight. Spoiler alert, your parents never sold the car and still have it. Your car has been stolen. Go to the police station with the title and report it stolen. Tell them who stole it and begin pursuing criminal charges for felony theft. You are 100% in the right here. As a side note, because of your abuse, you have been programmed to think that everything is your fault. It's how you were raised and how you view things. The line of thinking of, if I was careless with the keys, is a symptom of this and is heartbreaking. Please begin taking steps to completely get your parents out of your life and get some counseling to rebuild your view of yourself. And OP put an update on this story at the very end. Update. I went to the station in person and got a lot further with different officers who asked what happened before with the other officer, and rolled their eyes when I said his name. I have my brother fully on my side and we both made statements. I have contacted my insurance. And now, update, California, parents who took and sold my car and won't tell me who to. What's the best step to take from now? Thanks for all the replies when I originally posted. All I needed was a more with it police officer. I went in person with all the documentation proving that my car is my vehicle and with my brother, and stated clearly that my car had been stolen and sold and we knew who did it. The officer I dealt with this time treated everything seriously and listened to us both. I had my car back within 2 days. My parents had taken it and hadn't sold it like they claimed, but were renting it to someone they knew. The car was retrieved from the rentee's house. I hadn't yet made a claim on it, so it was returned to me the day after retrieval. My mother has been charged, and I've also been questioned about my parents' drug use. I'm over the moon that what they did trying to rip me off has shone a light on more of their behavior. I'm still trying to gain clarity with my insurer about possible internal damage to the engine or transmission, and having that thoroughly checked out, but that is besides the point. As a bonus, this was the last straw for my brother. He'd been still living under our parents' thumb, and this gave him enough reason to also cut them off and to commit to acting against them. I have my car back and my brother back more than I did before. Oh, that's a lovely end to this one. I'm glad that everything worked out for OP. Speaking of ends, there isn't a good ending to this next one, and there is not an update, but let's just see what it's all about. So posted by user Third Nipple, VA. My roommate was murdered in our house and the police took a lot of my property as evidence and now will not return my calls. So my roommate was shot and killed late last year while I was in the mountains with my girlfriend. The police took a lot of things in the course of their investigation, including my legally purchased pistol, laptop, and the SD card out of my camera. No one has been charged in the investigation, which I'm not surprised about honestly. But the police refused to return my calls about the return of my stuff. What can I do to get my crap back? You're not going to want to hear this. If the police seized your property as evidence, it will likely be held until the conclusion of the criminal case. Depending on the particulars of the case, this process can take years. If the police initially seized your property as evidence, and it is later determined not to be relevant to the case, you can hire an attorney to speak with the prosecutor in an attempt to arrange a return prior to the conclusion of the case. However, those arrangements are the exception and not the rule. Upon completion of the case, if the prosecutor will not agree to voluntarily return the property, your only recourse may be to file a petition for return of property with the court. If the government still will not return the property, the judge will hold a hearing and determine what should happen with the property. A difficult situation arises when the police seize your property, but no criminal charges are filed, at least initially. This can be the most challenging situation in which to compel the return of your property. If the police will not voluntarily return the property, they will typically continue possession under the guise of pending investigation. Is there some process OP can go through to get a copy of their hard drive? Doesn't affect the evidence being held, and he/she could at least get their files back. I'm not a lawyer, but I seriously doubt it. It's now likely considered evidence, and access to it will likely be highly controlled. The only people likely to have physical access to it will be detectives who are trained in forensic computer analysis. Their sole job in this case will be to preserve the hard drive and potentially search it for evidence. Anything outside that is well beyond the scope of their duties, so they won't do it. They don't want anything unusual to show up in the chain of custody that could end up in court. Have you gone to the police station and spoke face-to-face with the detective handling the case? You can find out if the pistol was used in the crime or if there was any evidence found on your laptop or camera SIM card. You can ask about the procedure needed to get your items back. I would consider the pistol most likely lost. Secondly, do not do this. If OP cares deeply about getting those items back, he is better sending a lawyer down in his place. Do not go down and talk to the detective in person, don't talk to the police. Why do you suggest not talking to them myself? You might be a suspect in this case, and anything you say can and will absolutely be used against you. Even what seems like the most harmless thing to you could be evidence to them. It is usually wise to speak with police through an attorney in this situation. Also, the attorney would have a better idea whether or not it would be possible to get your stuff back and the best course of action to do so. When in doubt, don't talk to the cops, especially if they might think your weapon was related to a murder. Even if you have airtight alibi, they can and will use your conversation against you. I know for a fact my weapon wasn't used in this murder. I had left it in my bedroom, and when he was shot, he was running down the hall trying to get to it. Just because you know something for a fact doesn't mean anyone else will agree with your analysis or accept your story. There is a possibility that if you talk to the police, everything will be fine, but people are giving you advice not to do so because there is also a possibility it will come back to bite you. And that's why I wanted to read this one out. There's obviously no update to this one because obviously what can you do? But yeah, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, albeit rare, be careful, get yourself some lawyers, get yourself some representation, don't just talk to the police. Alright, the next 3 are by the same OP, and I think you can kind of form your own ending on this one. It's pretty long, and there is no definite ending, but enjoy the ride while it lasts. Now, our boy 1962 Throwaway says, "Someone has tried to impersonate me and those close to me, and it's ruining my life. Last week, while on an extended trip to California, I live in New York, I received a text from my former landlord stating that she could no longer keep in touch with me because I violated her house rules and beliefs by having an abortion, which did not happen, lying to her about it and setting a bad example for her teenaged daughter, who's like a younger sister to me. I am very close to her. She's like the mother I never had. I spent weekends with her and tell her everything. The text contained details that made it seem very convincing, like mentioning her son by name and a mention of my ex-boyfriend by name, who supposedly told her. It was really strange and out of the blue, mostly because I knew she would be in a remote part of upstate New York without service, and her and my ex rarely talk. I was unable to reach her to discuss. I was extremely worried because she's usually a person who will call and not text. I sent a screenshot of the text to my ex-boyfriend, asking if he had said something to her or her family. He still keeps in touch with them. He said he hadn't. When we finally spoke, she told me she never sent that text. I sent her a screenshot of our conversation, she sent me one back. My ex spoke to her as well, and she told him that we spoke, that she never sent in the text / this never happened. But in turn, he tried to convince her that I was lying to her about the whole thing and could have doctored a photo. I would never do so. She means the world to me. And this is so ridiculous / would backfire insanely, it's something I would never do. A similar incident had also recently occurred, in which a former colleague of mine that I now freelance with sent a text to me stating that they had requested I take over a project / provide files to a client, and they hadn't heard back from me. They said that I had jeopardized the client / business, and they would be escalating a report to the marketing director, cancelling my contract with them. This was a little surprising, because we make requests over Basecamp or email, never text, and as a freelancer, I don't have a direct report to their clients. I immediately jumped on a call with them to discuss saving the account, only to find out that they were totally clueless to what I was talking about. I am an Android user. Over the last month, several other sinister things have happened in my phone. 1. Someone texted my younger sister from my number, asking her to send me $500 via Venmo. This was suspicious enough for her to call to confirm because I'm financially stable. She's usually the one asking me for money. Also, we're a PayPal family. 2. A few of my sister's other bills have been charged to my credit card, e.g. $496 for insurance, $76 for phone, $150 for gym, etc. She lost a credit card last year, so I covered 1 month's bills for her while she waited for a replacement. But it's been months since anything has been charged. This time around, her card has also been charged for the same amount for each item. We've been in touch with every merchant and are waiting for a resolution. This could be an error / coincidence, but felt worth mentioning. 3. I went to dinner with someone, and he received a text from me stating, "I'm sorry, this isn't going to work out. There's someone else," while I was seated across from him and had not touched my phone. I had not written such a text. 4. My best friend has received multiple texts from my number stating that I need help, or that I need her to give me a ride to my New York office while I was still out of town. She also received missed calls from me, and will sometimes call back, only to find me surprised to hear from her. 5. 4 texts from people I hadn't heard from in years, / strange numbers saying hey or hi. When I respond, I get responses to the effect of, "Who is this?" Or, "Whoa, 1962 throwaway, what a nice surprise to hear from you." 6. Emails in my Gmail would frequently appear marked as read when I don't recall reading them before. 7. 2 contacts of mine have received photos from me. Another friend who has a name in common with one of the bosses received messages from me relating to my attendance at work, saying I'm working from home to go to the dentist, a common pattern when I'm home, but I was already in California at the office already, and such info would not be relevant to them at all. 8. The phone would frequently lose service, as in 0 bars in areas where I would normally have service. It may just be T-Mobile's disappointing service, but felt worth mentioning. 9. I don't use any social media. I have a Facebook and Instagram account, but don't use them, / did not have the apps on my phone. My account has a series of links to contacts over the last 2 months to friends via message and DM. The typical kind you see when someone's account has been hacked, but I previously thought little of it. 10. While on the phone with me, contacts have heard a third party laughing and numeric dial tones when neither of us are dialing. This has happened twice with 2 different contacts. And 11. My phone has also randomly restarted multiple times while in the middle of writing emails, watching videos, etc., or will sometimes switch to another app, opening a lesser used app like Map My Run when I'm writing an email. Here's what I've done already. I went to the police in California, where I filed a report of my text incident and money request, but they advised that a PD in my home jurisdiction may be able to do more, and I should file when I return. The officer advised off the record that if I'm concerned with being watched, I can download an app called Spyware Search App to see if someone had downloaded any spyware on my phone. The app detected 3 apps with nefarious permission settings, one of which was more so than the others. The app was hidden and had permissions to list / place phone calls and SMS messages, create pictures, take hidden pictures, etc., etc. I took a screenshot of the full list, but did not remove the app from my phone. The app has a disclaimer that states even though the app is detecting such, it may not be accurate, and the PD advised that there's nothing they can do unless someone is hurt by these actions or money is sent and received. Immediately filed another police report with my local PD when I returned to New York. They reiterated what the officers said in California, that unless someone is hurt and or money is exchanged, there's not much they can do in a way of an investigation. They filed a report. They stated that it's a common scam for people to use your phone to impersonate you to solicit money from friends. Apparently there are apps that let you do this. They said that detailed text message impersonation is usually targeted at older individuals. An elderly person mentions dire straits to a relative and asks for money, and usually results in wire fraud or similar. They've seen this before, but the landlord/work context is unusual. I've given them a list of anyone who may want to harm me, / I might have upset in the past 3 years. Still, hard to think of who may want to. The officer working with me advised that I check my credit card statements / credit report for anything suspicious. I found 2 charges from Florida on 1 credit card that I haven't visited in almost a year, duplicate charges from gas stations, and a small purchase I couldn't confirm, so I cancelled the credit cards. I also froze my credit just to be safe. Credit Karma's site says that my information was detected in 18 different data breaches. Based on the current credit charges and the data breach info, the PD advised that I file an additional report for identity theft and freeze my credit. Finally, they advised that I change my number. I've already done so and got a completely new phone. I have only shared my number with the 4 people closest to me, but I'm wondering where the hell do I go from here? Other thoughts/concerns. Both PDs told me that they can't inspect the phone unless it's part of a criminal case, but without a suspect to name and/or provable damages, this is not a criminal case. Has anyone encountered something similar? Is there anything I can do to look into this further and ensure that the buck stops at the phone? I can't think of anyone who would want to harm me, but I also feel like I can't be too careful. I have the original phone, but it's no longer connected to a phone number. It's turned off in a drawer at home. I'm a subscriber of BetterHelp and frequently participate in teletherapy to work through a recent loss and changes in my life. Should I be concerned about that information becoming public? Is there anything I can do to find out if my calls have been recorded? I've changed my online bank password and email passwords, but do I need to be worried about these being compromised? Is there anything I need to do beyond freezing credits to protect myself? On the work front, I have already told my bosses what is going on. They've asked me to not use my company email on my personal device unless we're certain this is resolved. Please help. Thank you. Sounds like you have a rat virus on your phone, which allows people to access your phone remotely. This could have been downloaded off of the internet, but rats are more the type of virus to be planted on somebody's device deliberately, and sometimes a virus scan will not find them. I would reset your phone to complete factory settings, and even reflash the firmware. Look up how to unbrick your cell phone. If tech isn't your thing, send it off to a repair shop and have them do it. I personally am a fan of Louis Rossman's repair shop. I don't trust the average repair shop you may find in the mall, etc. Also, change all passwords, cancel all bank cards, and freeze your credit if you can. And maybe think about a service such as LifeLock to protect against even more identity theft. Also, make sure that your provider hasn't sent out your SIM card to anyone else to be safe. Agree with pretty much everything except for the recommendation for LifeLock. LifeLock can't do anything to protect your identity. Huh? I had no idea. What do they do? Well, the CEO of the company posted his SIN publicly as a marketing stunt, and had his identity stolen 13 times. Also, they have been sanctioned by the Federal Trade Commission twice. I know remote administrative tools. Google if you're clueless. Some random or somebody you know, highly likely due to the personal bits of evidence you provided, has installed one on your phone. Android rats have just came out over the years, and it's safe to say someone has installed one on your phone. They give you a lot of control as you have to assign permissions when installed, like you said one of those apps did. Apple phone products, as far as I am aware, are not vulnerable to such attacks. I have yet to see a publicly released rat with such capabilities. You need a new phone, or you need to completely wipe the Android operating system off your phone and reinstall for a clean start. Be sure to back up contacts and maybe photos. If you do, even then that's kind of risky. You never know where the virus lives. I can almost guarantee this will remove this pest from your life. Also, change sensitive passwords, banks, emails, PayPal, etc. And the next one by 1962 throwaway. New York. I found out my parents have most likely been stalking me. What do I do? I posted this thread yesterday, which is the one we just read, asking for help because I thought someone who may want to hurt me may be impersonating me by sending messages to my contacts, interfering with my relationships, and causing trouble at work. After posting, I shared what happened to a small group of people who started sleuthing through the what-ifs. They thought that my ex-boyfriend may be behind the behavior and the app that we found, but it didn't add up to me. They suggested that I look through old text messages to see if I could determine where I went that day, e.g. if I had met up with him and he had access to the phone. I used my Google location data to find out where I was on the date and time of the app installation, and it turns out that I was at my parents' house. Suddenly, most of these things make sense. My dad has a history of financial interference and abuse. 3 years ago, he opened a series of credit cards in my name, maxed them out, and refused to pay. He ruined my credit. My mother begged me not to go to the police, so I didn't. Instead, I paid them off and worked very hard to rebuild my credit. He promised to pay me back and has not paid a dime to this day. My parents have both expressed discontent with me, considering my former landlord family. They were quite vocally upset when I broke from the shared family phone plan and opened a new plan with two of my sisters. They blamed me for influencing those sisters, who were both adults, to move out on their own. They are very conservative Muslims who disagree with my lifestyle. I feel as if they tried to interfere so that I would have no one left, and have no choice but to come home to them, as moving home until I get married is something that they've begged me to do for years. What legal recourse should I take now? I instructed my sisters also to scan their phones. One of them found similar stalkerware, while the other did not. We have younger siblings who still live at home, so my sisters are hesitant to do anything that may get my parents sent away / harm my younger sister's relationships to our parents. I, however, do not care what happens to them. I have forgiven them once before for crossing the line with credit cards, so I do not care what happens to them now. I don't have anything to add about the legal steps you can take, but you and your siblings need to check your credit reports, which can be done for free annually, and put a freeze on your credit immediately. I'd also change phones and phone numbers, but save the information you have so far in case you need it in the future. Thank you. We have all checked and frozen our credit as a precaution. Given the past incident and the ensuing confrontation about my credits, I think he would be more likely to pursue new ways to interfere with their finances. As a victim of identity theft multiple times myself, if any of you do find any signs of future identity theft, attempted or successful, then I strongly urge you to go and file a police report for a number of reasons. The primary one being that a police report is necessary to obtain an extended fraud alert of 7 years with all the credit reporting agencies. It can also help you to properly handle any creditors that try to come after you for debts incurred through the fraud. This FTC memo to law enforcement is meant to explain to police officers who may be reluctant to take in a report exactly why taking a report is important. It's brief but summarizes the importance of obtaining a police report. Furthermore, if you do fall victim again, then the wiki r/personal finance has an excellent section on dealing with identity theft. This is great advice. Thank you. So in regards to this one about the dad ripping her off with credit, would it be too late for OP to pursue this legally in some way, or to bring this to the police? I can see two approaches. A quick Google shows that the statute of limitations for fraud is 6 years, so maybe he can still go to the police. Don't think it's a great idea, but I am not a lawyer. That said, he paid them off on the promise of repayment. Sounds like a loan to me. Depending on the amount, and a first-time borrower should not get much credit, he can take his father to the small claims court over it. Google says $5,000 is the limit for small claims. Tote up every penny paid over those debts, and if it's under $5,000, it feels like a no-brainer to me. If it's over $5,000, time to talk to a lawyer about a real lawsuit. All of this assumes that's an approach the OP wants to take, of course. No, it was not a loan. The dad never paid the kid back. The kid paid back all the loans for the dad, and the dad hasn't paid a penny. The father is most assuredly in default of said loan. That much is true. Let's be clear, this started out as fraud, and when the kid accepted it on the promise that the father would pay back the money, that turned it into a loan. One without a lot of paperwork that should have been in place, true, but fraud can't be turned into a loan. If the criminal agrees to repay, it's still fraud. And the last post by this OP, I found a tracking device in my car. What now? New York. 2 weeks ago, my car was broken into in the driveway of my home. I didn't notice anything missing from the car, but the inner door pull on the driver's door was broken off and left on the passenger's seat, which led me to believe that someone had been in the car, rather than it simply falling off from me closing the door. The following week, someone left a bouquet of red roses in the door handle of my car, sometime between the time I got home at 9 PM and 8 AM the next morning. My landlord put up a video surveillance and use sign after this as an interim deterrent before setting up actual cameras. The next morning, this sign was removed. No one on the property has done any of this, nor have any of our guests. I was worried that someone was following me, so had the car combed over. We didn't find anything on the outside of the car, but I wasn't satisfied, so I took it for a second opinion. We found a tracking device wired into the wires beneath the stereo. near the footwell of the driver's side with a SIM card in it. All numbers on the SIM and motherboard look like they've been scratched off. We were able to connect the SIM to an old phone. It's a little larger than the ones in use today. UICCD for the SIM and other information is unavailable. The device was on and blinking before it was disconnected. With this info, the cops have been unhelpful because they said it could have been installed to prevent a previous owner from defaulting on a lease, and that the consumer-grade tracing isn't illegal. But the device is exposed motherboard and wires taped into place, not what I would imagine a dealer installing. I've spoken to my parents about it, the only people in my life who would be interested in my whereabouts, and they're just as bewildered as I am. Is there anything I can do to have this further investigated from a legal standpoint? This is the last straw in a series of really strange anonymous harassment that has lasted for months. Sounds like you possibly have a stalker. Are you able to document the harassment you've been receiving? If you can't document the past incidents, start documenting any that occur from this point forward and write a summary of what's been happening up to this point. Take photos of any odd things that appear or have moved before touching them. Check your surveillance recordings regularly and back up any footage of suspicious activity. Consider getting a motion-activated camera to install in your car to record further incidents. Keep a log of everything. 2 or more copies stored in separate formats and locations. Report the incidents to the police each time and guard the name of the officer and report number or copy of the report. If the cops won't investigate, you could either escalate it to their superiors or hire a private investigator to try to find out who is doing this. If you read the person's post history, the parents are most likely suspects, as they have definitely been stalking OP in the past. I would look to them first, even if they are playing dumb. It's not technically legal advice, so feel free to delete the comment, but I had to point this out. OP, considering your post history, I think it's highly likely that this disturbing incident was caused by your parents. Your father had committed significant fraud and trashed your credit score, and you've posted that your parents were likely behind messing with / hacking your phone / contacts to sabotage your personal and professional life. The weird device may or may not be a working tracker. The flowers left in the car are the most disturbing detail in my opinion, and clearly indicate someone is stalking you. I think it's highly likely that your parents are behind this in some way due to the behavior that you have described in past posts. If it were me, I would probably go about installing a discrete video camera, reinforce my doors / windows, etc. Might want to consider removing to a new place if you are able to, and keeping the information completely private from your parents. They didn't have to steal anything. Even if the tracking device wasn't installed by them, if your car registration was in the car, they now know your name, address, registration data, and possibly a few other things about your stuff lying around in the car. That's valuable information to a stalker, and it makes it easier to find out more about you from others coming off as if they already know you. Inform your trusted friends, work colleagues, and people who might service your car, not to cooperate if anyone shows up inquiring about you or your car, to be suspicious and tell you about it if that happens. Unless you are already having background checks done, no one should be snooping like that. If you get these cameras installed and they actually show anyone messing with your car again, report it as a vehicle burglary. Tell them you have video and ask them to lift fingerprints. If they won't, see if you can get a private detective to do it. That will probably go a long way towards identifying them. Anyway guys, this has been like a conspiracy theory video today, so I really hope you've enjoyed these stories. Tell me what you thought of that 3-part saga. That was really long, but I honestly really enjoyed it. I didn't expect it to go where it did, and I honestly believe it is the parents. You know, OP really needs to be looking out for their parents there. They're trying to control them. Anyway, I hope you guys liked all that. I'll see you later in the next legal advice episode. I'm really having a good time recording all these. I hope you've had a good day so far and you keep on being awesome. I'll see you later guys. Bye.